bot lane fraudulency is like a 9 out of 10. Like, who are these guys? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they like take off the mask, like they just do like the Scooby Doo. It's like, who was hiding under Kaiser the whole time? They take it off and it's like Promiscue's face pops out. It's like, what the fuck? Promiscue, how'd you get here?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Power Spike. Dgon, Dom, and Monty here to break down the action from the world of League of Legends. The only podcast to do that throughout the year. Freaking, I love that we get to do this, man. It's so cool. All right, so
only for the elite fans who keep up with all regions.
That's right. And if you want to make sure you're up to date on everything, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel Last Free Nation for all the content across all of our different platforms. See, multiple platforms so that it'll reach you wherever you guys watch. I'll start with you, Monty. How are you? How's your week?
Very busy. I watched the Super Bowl, which delayed my League of Legends watching, so I had a lot of catching up to do last night and this morning, but we got it done. How
about you, Dom?
I did the same thing. Watched the Super Bowl. Watched, the refs ruined the game as always. Because it's just NBA refs and NFL refs, and just like the two arms just locked, and it just ruining sports.
It was a legit call, but like maybe don't call it at that point.
That's what I'm asking, Dom. Was it a hold? Was it a hold, Dom?
I mean, I think that when they called it was weird. Like, if it's a hold, it was like a hold, like on like when he was pressing in the route. Like, they called it like after the play was pretty much over, and it was like an uncatchable ball. I don't know. I think that when they called it is the fucked up thing. If they like instantly threw the flag, not knowing how the play would turn out when they see like the hold, I think that's different than waiting until it's like, ooh, wow, it looks like that he didn't catch it, so I guess it was a penalty now. Like, I don't fuck with that at all.
Yeah. That was tough. It was great. One of the greatest Super Bowls in the history in terms of like excitement.
I mean, it was great until the very end. I wish we had gotten another drive from the Eagles. And of course, Dgon can sympathize as a fellow Broncos fan. It sucks to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. So I didn't like the result either.
No. I like seeing Mahomes win a Super Bowl, to be honest.
Get out.
Yeah, I feel like that was some goat shit. Like on a fucking high ankle sprain, like that looked painful as fuck. So the fact that he was able to win on that, it's
I look. I'll put it this way: I respect it, but I don't like it.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Monty.
Okay. All right.
That's very much how I felt. High ankle sprains are awful, and the fact that he played not only this game, but more impressive was 2 weeks ago after he got the high ankle sprain. That was nuts. Anyway, congrats to the Chiefs fans. Commiserations to Eagles fans. Let's dive into our first segment of this episode. We got a new segment for you, to the point where we don't have a card yet. Maybe you have a card now, but we're labeling it. Sorry, Andrew. I'm throwing you under the
bus. We didn't make one in the last 5 minutes, so
yeah, but it was something that comes up a lot, right? It's kind of like an extended version of keep or kick. It's teams that are on the cusp, that maybe they're ranked high early on, but you're not sure if they're actually legit or not. So security specialists Dom and Monty are here with this next segment called Fraud Alert, where we are calling out the teams that aren't actually as good as their record says. So let's get into it. All right, so our first I guess suspect in Fraud Alert. We start in North
Who's
America.
Committing fraud, and how bad is the fraud? Is it just some petty fraud? Is it like felony level fraud?
Yeah, no, this is petty fraud. First one is petty fraud if we're going with who I think we are.
Yeah. First one, petty fraud, because it feels like they're booting on up, and there has been greatness there. Let's go with 100 Thieves in North America. They sit near the top of the table. They are one of the teams that are talked about as, the next step up after, or the next step down after FlyQuest, along with EG and Cloud9. But 100 Thieves seems to be the one that was getting the most hype. Last week, both of you guys said their 3-1 record was propped up based off of strength of schedule. Yes, they lost to FlyQuest this week, but it was a great match. How do we feel 100 Thieves are in terms of their fraudulent record now? Is it fraudulent, or do we feel like they've legitimized after a strong 1-1 in week 3 here, Monty?
Look, I'm not sure I put this at petty fraud level, because some of the teams that have been in the LCS have been underwhelming based on expectations, especially Team Liquid. But we have to look into their history of fraud. So they get bopped by Cloud9 in week number 1. I don't think the game versus FlyQuest was particularly close, even though it was a longer game. I think FlyQuest was pretty much in control for the vast majority of that match. And then their other wins were TL, who kind of sucks, if we're going to be honest. They are really sucks.
They really suck. Like they are egregiously bad. Like competitive ruling bad. Like they are really fucking bad.
They have 3 wins, Tom. Okay, they have 3 wins. Are they the fraud?
3 of the easiest wins. Like, who did they beat?
Maybe Team Liquid is the fraud.
They beat Dig, Golden Guardians when Gory had just came back, and IMT. That's their wins.
Well, 2 of 100 Thieves wins are Dig and IMT, and the other ones are TSM, right? And TL. So yeah, I think they're probably equally fraudulent. But look, I know people are going to get hyped off of 100 Thieves because they have seen some really dominant performances by them. But in a way, they're kind of just a gatekeeper, I think. They're the gatekeeper team between the shitters in this league, teams that are massively underperforming based on their rosters, like Team Liquid and Dignitas. And they have been, 100 Thieves has been what we expected. Now, other teams have failed. So I would say it's less their own successes and more that other teams have completely face-planted.
Where do you rate this? We this again, are you petty fraud on here? Or are we
6 out of 10 fraud?
Yeah, I mean, me, like, it's like, look, if I saw them committing like fraud, like if I was just, if they were like shoplifting or something, I would just be like, yo, put it back and get out of here. Well, I wouldn't take them to jail for what they've done, like it's not that bad. Like, I think that they're just the 4th best team in the league. I think they're a solid 4th best. Like, Team Liquid sucks. Yep, maybe they're 5th. Like TSM, CLG, Golden Guardians, Immortals, Dignitas, who knows? Honestly, if Golden Guardians get their shit together, I think Golden Guardian, or like if they get more time, I think this Golden Guardian team might be just like the 5th best team. They might be better than TL. I don't know. We're seeing some bad stuff. If we were gonna go fraud alert, actually, we should have fucking thrown TL in here because that is just like insane levels of fraud. Like that is grand theft. All right, like that is jail. What the fuck? No, they're crazy bad.
Yes, but it felt like people were
all right, you're
less
saying
hype about the TL than the 100 Thieves.
They have 2 rookie players basically, right?
Yeah.
And I think Harry has been super bad.
They have 2 world champs.
Okay, calm down there. I mean, I had eyes and watched most of Pioshik's games last year, so I don't think anybody who knew anything was super hyped about Pioshik going to this roster.
No.
So really, they have Summit, a guy who tilted to the moon on Cloud9 and then was immediately exiled, brought back for whatever reason, and then they have one, I would say, hype, world champion in Core JJ. And then they also have a first-time coach in Marin who has been streaming for the last 3 years. So I'm not sure what they expected with this roster. I expected better than this, but I'm not sure how fraudulent I think this is. Maybe my initial expectations were just lower than yours.
It's grand theft. Like it is grand theft.
All right, Dom. So what out of 10 is this fraud? Because I feel like TL last year was like 10 out of 10 fraud. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
For me, this is like a 9 out of 10 fraud for me.
Holy
this is crazy.
It's almost. You think it's almost you had as bad as last year?
Last year's was worse.
With how the LCS looks now, yes. Like the LCS does not look super fucking strong right now. Like, how the fuck are we not just beating the shit out of Golden Guardian? Like, look at the TPs. Look at how the laning is. Like, what the fuck is somebody even doing in half these games? He literally has no idea how to lane anymore. He wins the beginning of the lane, and then he just plays like noob top lane where you just hard push the wave into the enemy turret. The other guy just farms the wave, and then you just push it again, and you maybe like chunk him by like 100 HP, and then the wave comes back in. You push it again, you do the same thing, maybe chunk another 100 HP, and then he just TPs back, and your fucking lead has completely been lost. Like, what happened to like building the lead and forcing him to actually make tough decisions, drop a wave here and there? Like, where is like the actual top laning? When you have that combined with Core JJ, like Core JJ was one of the best players at a point. One of the best imports, probably the best import in the history of our region at a point in terms of like peak level. Impact's better in terms of like longevity and like all that, but in terms of like what Core JJ was doing when he was all pro first team, every fucking split, winning MVPs, like winning title, like he fucking performed. He was performing, and now he's just bad for NA state. He can't hit an arrow, in like a 40-minute game. They play a 40-minute game. He can't hit one Ash arrow. I saw Perks get hit by like 18 Ash arrows in one game
while
on
he's playing LeBlanc.
Yes. So what the fuck is this? Like, this is not the core JJ I know. I have high standards for this guy. And I think before, like, there was some way that you could build an excuse there where it's like, oh, they haven't played together before, but like maybe it's just that, like, they come from different cultures, they have different views on the game, whatever. Now it's like you're 5 Koreans who went to boot camp in Korea, so you actually just started practicing before other teams. Like, other teams are getting their players now. Gory got here like 4 days ago. It's actually like 9 days, but I
mean, FlyQuest doesn't even have their support player yet.
Yeah, FlyQuest like FlyQuest doesn't have their support. Dig doesn't even have their support player either. Like, other teams are getting their shit together. And you were boot camping in Korea. You were watching like the World Cup. When did the World Cup happen? They were watching group stage of the World Cup in Korea. Yeah. And they're doing that. And somehow they're still this bad. Like, what the fuck were they doing this whole time?
See, I guess I'm just kind of jaded about heisting or like the fraud on Team Liquid, because the $7 million fraud that was perpetuated by the players last year was just so terrible that I expect Team Liquid just to be defrauded at this point in time. Right, they're asking for it, man. They're just asking for it. They're just throwing away money at this point in time. So I guess compared to last year, I guess it feels less bad.
Yeah. I thought you were trying to make the argument here, Dom, that last year was not as bad as this year. Last year's fraud was not as bad as this year's. Last year's fraud was just crazy. All right.
Last year's fraud was outrageous, man.
To me, this is a 9 out of 10. This is a 9 out of 10 fraud.
So we got 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 for 100 Thieves, 9 out of 10 by Dom for TL. I think now that we're figured out this segment, we should do it by league. I will offer up a fraudulent customer, and you can go ahead and actually pick the right one.
I like it.
Let's move on over. Yeah, you guys watch it live. You get to see how it's made. All right, let's move on over to Korea. Fresh off of a 3-1 series, or after, I guess, in their last 4, they're 3-1. The only loss was to, pretty good team called Gen G. Liiv Sandbox currently sitting 3rd in the standings, 6-2 series overall, 13-9 in terms of games, but they're above D+, they're above KT, they're above the super team Hanwha Life. How fraudulent is Liiv Sandbox? Let's start there. Is this the most fraudulent team in the LCK?
Based on record, to me, they are. Like, I mean, there's no, like, maybe they're the 6th best team, I would say. Maybe they could be 5th best, is like where I could see their peak. But, I mean, I don't think that this team at the end of the split is going to be able to win best of 5s versus Hanwha Life, T1, Dom1. I'm not calling them D+, Gen G. I mean, all those teams are still better than them to me. So, like, they're not fraudulent based on like what the expectations were, the same way TL I think is fraudulent based on expectations. They're just fraudulent based on their record. They're not as good as the record indicates.
I think for me, the thing about Liiv Sandbox is that they haven't played T1 yet in this round robin, which is going to happen next week. So we fully expect them to go 6-3 in this round robin. But I agree with Dom that their record is probably better than it actually should be at this point in time, especially since a lot of their matches have been relatively close to ones, even against teams that are far below them in the standings, like, Kwangdong Freaks, for example, or DRX. So they're giving up games that they shouldn't give up. And I will say that I don't think I agree that they're slightly above, but we also have to consider that the bottom 4 teams in the LCK are almost free wins for the top 6 teams, I would say, barring the very occasional upset. So I think at any round robin, we could expect Liiv Sandbox to pull off somewhere in the 4 to 5 win range. So is 6-3 that much higher than we expect them to be? They've also had some good plays. Like, I think Willer has been a pretty big pleasant surprise this season, and Envy is just hit or miss. Like, he got dumpstered versus D+, but he's also been extremely good in some other series. So I think their floor is still relatively high. I think this team ends up by the end of spring, probably 6th place in the standings. I think they look considerably worse than most of the other top 5 teams as it stands right now. And as the rest of the teams like KT and Hanwha pick up, I think they'll fall down the ranking. So I give them a 3 out of 10 on the fraudulent meter.
Yeah. Also, this one feels kind of good, right? 6-3 gives you a pretty good start for the second round robin for them to at least hold off into a position that they should slot into. And if not, they'll exceed expectations. Is there a higher, more fraudulent case here in the LCK that comes to mind, whether they are overperforming or underperforming on the bottom end, Dom?
I mean, DRX. Like, what the fuck, man? Like actually, I didn't think it would be this bad, right? Like, I was like,
Sure.
oh, this team is gonna be bad, but they're literally just the worst team. Like, Nongshim looks better than them. When you watch Nongshim play, you're like, ooh, they're inexperienced. Like, if they got like a little bit better late game, they could win some of these games. Like, the Nongshim series versus T1 was unironically winnable. It was an unironically winnable series. They were, they just made some mistakes. Like, it is what it is. But like, come on, bro. Like, DRX is just so bad.
Did you watch the T1 DRX game? I'm curious. Because it is fucking. It's worth it just for the highlights, man. Because Beryl just gets assassinated.
Was that the Twitch game that he played?
No.
No,
T1 lost that one. So it was the game. It had just happened on Sunday. So it happened very recently. But it is absolutely hilarious because Owner plays Nidalee. And they're playing like Varus, Caitlyn, Nidalee, and Beryl is just getting one shot from like an entire screen away from these snipes. It's really funny.
I mean, I'm trying to avoid DRX games. Like, I watched like the first 4 series and I just knew what the fuck it was.
All you have to do is watch the first 20 minutes of that game and you'll just laugh your ass off because it's just Beryl getting one shot from a screen away by all this poke. It's just very entertaining. Like, especially if you hate Beryl.
No, I don't hate Beryl. I'm actually a Beryl enjoyer. I just think that he's just a bad match for a team like that. But I mean, look at the names on that roster. Like DRX, like how the fuck are they as bad as they are? Actually, I mean, Duck Dom was probably like the most fraudulent part of Dom 1, but
he wasn't bad though.
I mean, he was like limiting, I would say. Like, I think his I mean, he was just like an Aphelios one trick to me. That's how I view him. So yeah, I mean, when you look at the DRX roster overall, I mean, they don't have like egregiously bad players. Like, they have like mid-level players. I thought they would be a mid-tier team.
I mean, they're bad, but I wouldn't say they're fraudulent because they're losing, right? If anything, D+ might be fraudulent.
Yeah.
If anything, D+ might be fraudulent because they've had a rough couple weeks.
The Team Liquid fraudulent angle, where it's like they're just underperforming expectations. That type of fraudulent, like I mean, before the season, I did like LCK power rankings, right? And when I was looking at the LCK teams, I was like, to me, there looked like a very clear like top 6 and bottom 4, where you had like these 4 teams that were coming in that were essentially fielding rookie talent, and you think that there's going to be like 4 developmental rosters. You had who? Sandbox. You had the Freaks. You had Bro. I mean, I don't know. Bro, I just expected to be bad. And then you had Nongshim, right? So like, I thought that was going to be bottom 4, and then like 5th, 6th would probably be KT DRX, and then top 4 would be Genji would be 4th, and then Hanwha Life, Dom 1, and T1 would be at the top. That's what I was expecting coming in. So the fact that like DRX is just worse than development teams, like that's, I mean, because this team, like this DRX lineup, I mean, are they going to get better with time? Like, I don't know if this team...
They're just this year's Nongshim, man. Don't worry about it. I am sad, though, because I really like Croco, and I wish he was on a good team.
That's what I was saying. Croco's your boys.
He is my boy.
Both of your boys.
Yeah.
Because he's an idiot. But he's a lovable idiot.
Well, the thing is, he's like he's like an LPL jungler, to be honest. That's why I liked Sandbox, because it's not even like he's an idiot. It's more just that like he's willing to like take fights that look winning that are on paper not good. Like, he'll be like, oh, this is like a 3v4, but like he's like the blabber where he's like, but if we hit this skill shot on this guy and then you come in from this angle and then also follow up, we kill, I get my triumph proc, like my conqueror is fully stacked, and then we could scrap it out and win. He's like that type of guy. I don't actually believe that he's just like stupid. The same way when I watch like
I think he's a young player who's testing his limits. I think he makes stupid plays sometimes. I mean, I've seen him make some really stupid plays.
Yeah,
that's what I love about him, because I felt like at the end of last year he was on the cusp of like becoming a very good jungler, and like we would see, over time the stupid moments decreased and the good moments increased. So the development was going well until now.
I mean, his regular season performance was legit top 3 like last summer up until
Anyway,
until playoffs and Gauntlet happened.
Anyway, I'm just mostly sad about Croco.
All right. Well, again, we'll go with Liiv. Actually, we'll go with DRX as the bigger fraudulent here.
They're not fraud. They're not fraudulent.
DRX?
I think they're fraudulent the same way TL are fraudulent. To me, that's like
they're
that's
defrauding their org.
Yeah, they're defrauding their org.
I guess there's two ways that they could be fraudulent. They're either defrauding their org or they're defrauding the fans by pretending to be good, right?
Yeah, they're defrauding the league as a whole. Well, I mean, the other thing about like their team is like, I mean, so we were both Rascal haters, right? Like, I'm pretty sure we were both Rascal haters, like back when he was with Gen G in 20.
The problem with Rascal is he's like a
resource
player.
hog.
Yeah. And he's also a KDA player who doesn't make very good sacrifices for the team when he needs to. So I'm not his biggest fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not his biggest fan either. I didn't think he would be sitting in 10th place with this roster. So that's it.
All right. Next up, let's move back to the West. I'll skip LPL for now and head on over to just the group stages, because we know that probably the biggest fraud in Europe would have been Fnatic. But let's go to the group stages here. I present to you.
I don't know. Excel might have actually had a bigger budget.
Really?
Than Fnatic.
It's possible. I won't comment.
Know
you know what? I have like half of Fnatic's team in my fucking live views during LEC. So you know what? We're just gonna not comment and we'll just... Yeah, XL was the bigger frauds for sure.
All right. I present Vitality. So Vitality coming in #1 seed, had to play, got through against Heretics in a 2-1, and then just lost against Koi here. How do you feel about this squad in terms of their fraud meter?
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think their bot lane is that's the fraudulent part. Like it's
I'm so upset about Vitality having the bot lanes that they've had for the last 2 years, where look, I didn't have a lot of confidence in their bot lane last year, but I was hyped about Neon and Kaiser. These are two of my favorite, like Kaiser's one of my favorite European support players of all time. And then I thought, oh, wow, Neon coming off this Misfits run, like this is his time to shine with a really solid roster. And if anything, it was Photon that was the question mark, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, everyone's always known that Kaiser's been better on engaged supports, right? Like that is no secret. But what I don't understand about Neon is like he would have similar angles. Like when on Misfits, he had the opportunity to carry any type of fight, he would just fucking carry it. He would just 1v9 the fight and it was like, oh shit, here's another Neon Penta. Oh my god, he just plays Jinx and he scales. When Zeri came in, he was similar on that. Like he was able to play these picks. And now it's like, I don't even know what he does anymore. Somehow Neon has gotten worse late game, and then Kaiser dies level 1 or loses the game level 1 every single game for zero reason. I don't know what the fuck is
Nautilus
happening.
Game today was, I mean, I know we didn't expect Sivir to like take spell shield at level 1, but even so, I mean, blowing all your summoners and then dying at level 1, it just makes, look, I don't understand taking the risk. Just don't do it so the rest of your team has a chance to fucking play the game.
Yamato made a montage of Kaiser level 1s. Like his Lux Caitlyn level 1 was a great, like you're getting solo killed by Boots Zeri. I've said it so many times. You're getting solo killed by Boots Zeri as Caitlyn Lux when the enemy team has a Nautilus. The Zeri thinks the lane is so unwinnable that he's just taking boots. He's not going to even try to take Longsword, Dorian's Blade to try to fight. Like he literally is just like, yeah, I'm just going to sustain. We take the lane L. Maybe we gank them later. Right? That's what other people are doing. And they're losing that lane, bro. How the fuck are you losing this lane? The Karma lane, when he played Karma Ezreal, he lost at level 1.
I think this evolves into another question about like what's going on in the West with like losing Caitlyn Lux lanes.
Caitlyn's weak.
I had to watch fucking Dignitas do that, and it was mind blowing.
Well, so the thing about Caitlyn Lux is normally the way that Caitlyn Lux ends up losing lane is that somebody comes down and blows the summoners, or you just pressure it at a time where they're trying to push, and then they lose their summoners and they can no longer like play on the turret. And if you don't play on the turret as Caitlyn Lux and you're even farm going into the mid game, every other champion that's being played in the meta is better than you. Sivir, Zeri, even Draven, Varus, like you name it, everything's gonna be better than you. The thing about Vitality's bot lane is that they lose the straight up 2v2 at level 1. Like they just somehow Nautilus hits 2 hooks. Like, bro, minions exist. So I don't know how you're hitting 2 Nautilus hooks at level 1, but he somehow hits 1 Nautilus hook, gets both sums, and then hits another Nautilus hook and kills them. And then they just get double killed. It's crazy how bad they are. Like, I don't know what's wrong with Kaiser. There has to be a way that you can practice this, because this is not anything to do with like jungle or like team coordination. You should be able to sit in a fucking practice game with another bot lane and play 2v2s so that you actually understand how your abilities interact with the enemy's abilities. Like, this is basic shit. I actually don't know what's going on.
Also wild about the whole Neon situation is that Vitality got Carter, who is Misfits coach. So you would think that they would know how to use Neon, considering he used Neon very effectively last year in a meta that was extremely similar. I mean, some of the good games we saw in Neon were champions he can play right now.
Yeah. So it's
weird.
Sounds like Vitality having a bot lane problem. That's the fraudulent portion there. Is there someone else? Is there another option here? And
no.
on the scale, let's finish up with Vitality. Where do we rank them? If we had 6 and for 100 Thieves, 9 for TL, 3 for Liiv Sandbox. Where are we?
The problem is this: the game is so doomed by the bot lane for Vitality that like the top side has to do things to try to just bring it back. It's like a solo queue game where it's like 0-5.
Sad watching Photon like try and carry the game on this Olaf and just like make a play in that last game. It's so sad to watch.
Literally, Bo is saying like, okay, you guys are super shit. He's not saying this. This is what he's thinking, but what his actions and his gameplay are saying, like if you just read into his actions, he's saying you guys are so fucking dog shit at bot lane that I'm gonna gank the bot lane while they're still level 1. I'm gonna do red buff on Nidalee. I'm not gonna be playing something that needs to be like, you know, level 3 to gank, level 4 to gank. No. I am playing something that can level 2 come to your lane and come to your lane quick, right? Like I'm moving through the brushes. I got a million movement speed. I'm beelining to bot lane, red buff to bot lane. I'm going to try to help you guys. And he can't even get to the fucking lane before Kaiser's killed himself. What? Like he can't get there. Like you can't even do
Malrang
red buff
was
to
also
bot lane.
There at level 2. He went red buff to bot as well. He went red buff Krug's bot.
Yeah, but he saw Bo on a ward because Bo was
literally
had
wards in the river. It was smart.
Yeah, they had wards in the river because all they know is they're like, oh yeah, if we just match what Bo does, like Bo has to run to this fucking lane. Top, mid, and jungle do not get to play the game when your bot lane loses this hard. So Bo is having to do things that don't make sense because it's desperation. It's like if you've ever played a solo queue game, this is what I tell people. If you ever played a solo queue game, you're playing top, you're playing mid, whatever, doesn't matter your role, and everything's fine in your lane is stable, and you look at the scoreboard at like 7 minutes and the score is like 0-9. So then you just try to kill your lane super hard and you end up throwing your lane because you're like, I have to fucking do something. Like if I don't do something right now, the game is lost. Like we have to start stomping our lane, or have to stomp the enemy jungle, or we need to start getting something back because everything else is so doomed. In competitive play, you're not going to have 0-9, but if you're playing the Nidalee Nautilus side of a matchup, and you're behind in that game, you just know it's fucking doomed. Sure, Bo could farm the jungle, like Perks could just like sit mid and farm and never try to do anything. Photon could do nothing in their lanes, and they can just lose slowly in like 20-30 minutes. But they have to flip the game. Topside is forced to flip the game because of bot lane's action. So
you're also playing into Malrang's strengths in a lot of ways too, because Malrang wants to like fight you at level 2 and just like distract the enemy jungler and like have all like Malrang's thing is getting, you know, squeezing blood from a stone and getting resources to prop up his lane and sacrificing himself. So in a way, like him dragging Bo down to that level is also very effective for Koi as a team.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't even care about that part of it to me because like Malrang's just gonna like play, like it's just so easy for him to play the game no matter what happens. Like you see just what's happening bot, and you can literally do anything as a jungler if that's what's happening bot. They took 5 plates. It was Zeri Soraka into Lulu Sivir, which Zeri Soraka wins, but it's like you chip away at them slowly, get a plate here, plate there. You know, maybe you come out of lane down 15 CS as a Sivir, but it's fine. You know, like the whole idea of that comp from Vitality is that they're trying to play topside. They want Photon to get big. Gwen is really good later on in the game. There's nothing to protect the Soraka because normally, like when you saw Soraka being played by Koi, aka Rogue in previous seasons, they would do the Kalista Soraka so that they give that extra safety to the Soraka. When there's a Gwen in the game, Gwen can actually beeline for the Soraka and like win team fights. Like it's okay to lose bot lane there, but they lose it to such a degree where it just ruins the entire game. The Zeri got 5 plates. The Zeri got 5 plates by 8.5 minutes.
I just want to know what happens in these level 1s, because if I'm like, this is one of the most coachable aspects of the game where you're literally sitting in draft and your coach can call a level 1 that's going to be executed. And like, I don't know if they're going off script or what the fuck is happening, but I mean, Kaiser should just be what?
Well, I mean, they're not making level 1 plays. They're literally just like inting that by themselves in lane level 1.
Well, I mean, to be fair, some of this happens like as the minion wave is hitting, right? As the first minion wave is hitting. But I just don't understand why it's so hard to coach Kaiser back off of doing things at level 1.
I mean, if your coach needs to fucking tell you how to play level 1, like, you just need a different player. Like, there's no way that I'm like, if I'm coaching a team, I'm not going to sit there and be like, hey, by the way, like Nautilus hook is dangerous. You got to sit behind the minions so that like you don't get hooked. And then you've got the AoE spells with the Caitlyn and the Lux. And if you, that gives you control of the wave. And then when you control the wave, then you can decide when to push it, the wave. And then when it hits the turret, then you can poke them under the turret. Like if I'm having to say that, I'm quitting my fucking job, bro. There's no shot that you actually have to go that detailed with somebody. Like no one should say anything. It's like literally just get these two guys to sit down, play some fucking 2v2s. You have an academy squad, right? There's Vitality B. Have them play some fucking 2v2s until they learn how these lanes actually interact and what the strengths are. Because the next level is doing what you're doing around what the jugglers in the game are doing, but they don't even understand how the lanes interact with the other lanes.
Well, man, Dom, that also felt a little cathartic, right? That kind of coaching right there. Maybe it's old school League of Legends coaching.
Fuck no. Fuck no. People in my chat always say, Dom, why don't you try to become a coach? It's like, number one, why would I? Like that's literally just a worse job than the one I have right now. But the other part of it is it's fucking annoying. Like, why would you want to work with pro players if you didn't have to work with pro players? Like, I was a pro player.
It's true. Like, it's true. Like, that's one of the reasons why I never went back. You know.
All right, give me a number. What's the ranking of this fraudulency of the bot lane? Just the bot lane, apparently.
The bot lane fraudulency is like a 9 out of 10. Like, who are these guys? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they like take off the mask, like they just do like the Scooby-Doo. It's like, who was hiding under Kaiser the whole time? They take it off and it's like Promiscue's face pops out. It's like, what the fuck? Promiscue, how'd you get here? Then he's like, shit. I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you damn kid. Like, that's what I'm expecting, bro. Like,
I'm honestly disappointed in you. I was expecting the Hachani reference.
I was thinking Jack Draw. I think Hachani might be too obscure for like at least
all three very good picks. Okay.
Johnny just stayed in Europe this whole time, it turns out.
All right. That was our first time doing Fraud Alert. If you guys have ideas on other teams, players that have been fraudulent, please call that number and put the comment below on this video. We'll make sure
we can rename the segment. It could just be like Dom and Monty flame pro players for 15 minutes. That could be just
what about IG?
That's what almost everything.
We missed IG.
I was going to do it next in our next segment. Right. Yeah. All right. Okay. So our next segment, we have on up a classic. It is some LPL, I guess, topsiders in terms of the rankings, but which one would we rather have in our episode of Keep or Kick? All right, at the top, got some Invictus Gaming and LNG Gaming or LNG Esports at the top of the LPL table here. About 5 to 6 games in, depending on if they've played yet or not. LNG sitting in a tie for second. IG on top of the table at first, 5-1. So, kind of want to ask, hey, early on in this season, obviously a very long season, who you keeping and who you kicking and why? Let's turn it over to you, Monty, first, and then we'll go to Dom afterwards.
All right. Well, the problem with LPL is that there are way too many teams. And so the schedule ends up being kind of crazy, and you have like really weak schedules or really strong schedules for teams for a lot of the early parts. So you might look at IG and you might think, wow, I've been so hype about You Should Know Me. I've seen those highlights, and like Dove is performing okay now that he's moved back to mid lane. But then you actually have to look at the opponents they faced, which is Anyone's Legend, RNG before Mingangala came back, and even when Mingangala came back, they haven't been great. They beat EDG, somewhat respectable. That's the big one. They lost to Thunder Talk. They beat LGD and then FPX. Now, this week is the real test. So IG is going to prove whether they really belong at the top of these standings, because they're playing both Top and JDG, arguably the two best teams within the LPL, although we can have the argument after Weibo beat JDG. I still think JDG is better. Now, this scenario, like I also have a lot of questions about You Should Know Me's champion pool, because he's a relatively new pro player, and he hasn't actually played that many champions yet, even though he has looked good. He's a flashy player, which is why people get excited about him. But for me, I kicked them out. Fuck that. I actually really like LNG. I think Tarzan has been one of the best early game junglers, I would say, in the world so far this season. I've been really impressed with his decision making. His synergy with Scout is really strong. I've been a little less impressed with LP as a player, but I think that LNG's early game and their strength of planning can actually get them quite a few wins. And they should be able to stand on this mid jungle synergy to be better than IG by the end of the split.
All right, Dom, how do you feel about that? Do you take the pair of the lane swapping Dove or the Scout Tarzan synergy?
I mean, my classic is that I kick both here, which I think is actually like accurate here. Like once again, like I don't think like if we're doing it based off like keeper, like is either of them a top team? No, neither of these teams are going to be the best team in LPL. I do think that that IG is a little bit more scary. Like they're a little bit more fraudulent. So I guess I would kick them because of mainly like their bot lane. I mean, On and Wink, they're getting away with a lot of things right now, but they are not like, I don't know. I've seen too much Wink. You know, I've watched LPL for too long to have faith in Wink. Maybe he'll make the AD to support change and he'll be really good. But they are relying on like Ashe support, Vera support, these types of picks. They're playing MF support. And I think that they might be more exploitable, especially as we get like later in the season. We start hitting like, you know, tank supports and engage support meta. I think that might be worse for IG. I mean, you should know me. He is really limited stylistically, but this is actually a common quality of a lot of really good LPL teams, that they are just limited stylistically and they just play towards their style over and over again, and they just try to execute that as best as they can. So I don't know if I necessarily dislike that, because right now in his like wheelhouse, he's playing enough champions that you can't ban him out. And I think it's an issue when you can only play a few champions within your style. But if you look at what his champion pool is,
tried to like ban 3 champions against him, and he still has delivered good performances, to be fair.
Yeah, people are banning like all of his champions, so he can play like the full roster of like all the carry top laners, the real like Giga Chad carry top laners. So he can play the Jax, he can play the Camille, he can play the Fiora, he can play the Aurelia, and he like has a good enough like Cassante that I think it's passable, right? So if you have all those, like you have at least 3 champions in your wheelhouse top, and you're willing to play the other ones into like not great matchups. For example, one of the recent series, he ended up playing Camille into Cassante, which is not great for the Camille, right? Like most in the West, every single fucking top laner would take Cassante over Camille. But if you have a good enough Camille and you're confident at like being able to get through the hard part of the lane, and later once you get Divine Sunder, you can actually start beating him level 9, get the Cho'Gath Q, Cho'Gath R on your Q and all that stuff, then I think it's fine. Like right now, he's showing to me that he's good enough mechanically, and he plays enough champions that you can't really ban him out. So maybe IG is just a topside focused team. It's just going to be On and Wing trying to survive bot lane. Like it seems like Gideon and Dove know where their fucking wing condition is, by the way, because they're always visiting top. They play towards top, let this guy get ahead, and he can carry a lot of games. This is not going to work against probably JDG and top esports, because 369 is like a monster at defending that, right? Like that's what 369 makes his money at. He can neutralize you top. If you want to try to beat him and your matchup is not great, he's going to slam a fucking Gragas in your face. He's going to slam a Scion in your face.
I love watching his Gragas. It's so great.
Yeah, and he's just going to make it so you can't play the game. So I don't think it's a recipe for like a ton of success, but it is fine. That being said, I guess I will still kick them, but I want to give all those like caveats, because
I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, like I think LNG has a higher chance to be legit, because their formula I think is a more solid formula. But it's not necessarily just that like IG is bad or anything, right? It's just that having a good jungler with a good mid that can play everything, and then having like a top laner who's seems like he's fitting into like the weak side model, and then having like an AD carry who's at least not a mega inter, like that's normally good enough to be solid. So I guess I would keep LNG and kick IG, even though I think they're both like similar quality. I would expect both these teams to go like 5th, 6th, like 5th through 8th maybe. Like this is where I expect them to end up.
All right. Well, that is our episode of Keeper Kick. IG kind of having that very clear win condition that we're learning about as a younger, I guess, newer squad with YSM. What you should know me, YSKM. The K is, silent. YSKM on the top side of the map and continue to grow. And Dove getting acquainted in that mid lane, but we'll continue to watch that as the LPL rolls on with their many, many matches.
I'm just a bias because I love Tarzan. I think that's it. I think LNG is actually like one of my favorite guilty pleasures in League of Legends right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Tarzan, keep it there. All right. Next up, we've got our big conversation now with the group stages of the LEC, the best of 3 format, and the teams that are playing in it. That'll be the topic of the next part, our Galaxy Brain Club. All right, guys. So as we know, already into the matches that matter, no longer the regular season stretch. We got rid of Fnatic, we got rid of Excel, and now we're into what we want to call playoffs, but it's called group stages. It's best of 3, not best of 5. And we had the seeding, it wasn't Nemesis draft, but you get to pick based off of your group order. How do we feel this format is now playing out now that we've seen it? We've been pretty big fans of it so far, but anything new, any nuances that have popped up here, Monty?
So I have to rage against something real quick, which is that I love the fact, and I did this when Thorn and I designed the format for Flashpoint and Counter-Strike, where you select your opponents, because it makes for a beautiful opportunity to do a little trash talk, to talk about your opponents. And I brought all the players out on stage, right? Everybody's standing there, and you have Quickshot on stage with a microphone, and they pick all the teams, and they're like, and now over to you at the desk. I'm like, wait, no, just have them trash talk a little bit. Like, ask them why they picked certain teams, get the players' thoughts. This is the perfect opportunity to have a little banter while everyone is just standing there, and you have them prisoner to the trash talk, right? And you encourage them to do it. And you're like, look, here's how this is going to go, guys. And it works. If you tell the pro players, I can tell you from my experience in doing this, if you tell the pro players, look, this is all in good fun. We'd like you to just trash talk each other a little bit. They usually will play along with you. And if you get the right personalities from the teams too, but I would have loved to have seen just them try just a little bit for a spicy moment about why certain teams were selecting each other and, how those teams that were selected felt about being picked, right?
Yeah, I think it's a hit or a miss though. Like I could see definitely them like asking, "Oh, so, Trimby, why did you choose Mark Kuhn?" And those guys are so fucking nice. They'd be like, "Well, I mean, honestly, we had to choose one, and we think that they're still really good." But I don't know, bro. It just would have been kind of awkward.
I think okay. So first off, it was Vitality. It was Vitality selecting Heretics. So SK and Koi, in your particular example, did not pick each other. They were just they were defaulted because Vitality.
So it'd be mad flaming Astralis. It's like, yeah, Dayor, you piece of shit. Who wants to flame Astralis, man? I feel like that's low hanging fruit.
I think you can actually do some fun stuff with that, and talk about the SK and Koi facing each other, right? Or ask Vitality why they didn't pick Koi, right? I mean, there are questions you can ask here, and you can get information out of the players. I've literally done this, even with shy players. I've literally run the experiment of you get a bunch of players on stage, you can usually find angles to get them to trash talk each other. I've done those interviews, so I know.
Yeah, but those are CS:GO players. They're different.
You keep moving the goalposts on me, Tom. I believe that we should have had this segment. And here's the other thing. Most people will have tuned out by that point. If you hit a home run, you can put it in every social media teaser. You can throw it on the broadcast before the match as a hype piece. If you miss, doesn't matter. You never have to show it again. So you might as well try.
I think actually it's funny because I was watching, I think it was Koi afterwards. Trouble was interviewing Larson, and instead of having her ask Larson, hey, what do you have to say? What did you think about the other team beforehand? Do you feel better? She asked him to talk trash about Trimby. Is like, hey, we're about to have your teammate on the post game lobby. Do you have any trash talk for him? And I was like, Oh, that's not it either. And like Lusha was like, I don't know what to say. It was pretty funny. And then he's like, don't die 2v2 as much. And I was like, all right. He's like, yeah, back to you. There's the trash talk. I was like, no. All right. So the format itself, though, we're here. That first game, Heretics, was it Heretics Vitality? I think that was the very first one. Was a 2-1. That was a close match. That kind of went back and forth.
No.
That was exciting.
Let's talk about the best of threes first. Let's just talk about the concept of best of threes, right? Because I think that's been a big thing in the community, because everybody who doesn't watch Asian League of Legends apparently just had amnesia over what happened a few years ago when LEC was actually best of threes, or they just admitted all of those Redditors who pretend that they watch Asian regions just tacitly admitted that they've never seen a best of three in their entire fucking lives, by being like, oh man, best of threes are so good. I had no idea. It's like, you dumb motherfuckers. This has been the default format of League of Legends that we've known about for years. You were being robbed by Riot. You were being defrauded by Riot. Riot is like a 10 out of 10 on the format fraud scale, right? We actually had good shit before they got involved. And as soon as Riot got involved, they're like, you know what would be cool? Double round robins in every single league on the planet. No differences, no hype. Everything must be standardized. Thank God we have this format, but please, guys, don't act like Riot is Jesus for giving this to you, okay? They're actually the devil for taking this away from you in the first place.
Okay, that is the most Monty take ever. Like,
yeah, I already see it.
Yeah, all right, man.
Put this on here and the clip with the Monty and the devil costume, like, yeah, and then laughing and fire everywhere. Please,
hey, I'll take what I can get. I like the BO3s. I like the BO3s. You know, I mean, I'd like it more if I was able to, co-stream it like eBay and. And look, I'm Hispanic by blood too, so hey, like, there's like, maybe there's some benefit there, like, maybe some co-streams would be good over here. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Format is great. Keep it up, guys. Thank you.
All right, there you go. So new format here in terms of these teams that will move on, the top 4 teams that will move on to the playoff stage here. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how the matches have played out so far. So we had that Vitality team, Heretics 2-1, SK and Koi 2-0, and we just saw Koi Vitality 2-0 earlier. They play them 2-0. Astralis 2-1, and then a G2 2-1 over BDS, with Mad Lions falling to G2, I guess today while we're recording this, whenever you're watching it on Monday. How we felt about it, the matches, and what has jumped out at you, Monty?
Wow. I was super disappointed in Vitality's performance. We already touched on that a little bit. I don't know where you go from here, honestly. Like, even the performance against Heretics was not the level of dominance that we would have expected. And I will say at least Vitality now has a week in order to kind of get their shit together. But they went from being a clear front runner in Europe, I think at the start of the split, to now being, pretty in danger of being maybe. I think there's an argument here. I think they're better than Mad Lions, maybe, but I think they might be worse than. I think they're definitely worse than G2. They're definitely worse than Koi. They might be worse than BDS, and they might be worse than Mad Lions. So I think that's a pretty big fall from grace. Luckily, if they change players or sort out their shit in the bot lane, I don't think the players in the bot lane are irredeemable. Let's put it that way. So hopefully they can get it together in the next week.
They just need the meta to hit them in the face, and they're lucky that it's happening 13.3. Like, if they can't find a replacement, if they can't massively upgrade, like, I think you consider, even though winter and spring are 2 different splits, they're essentially played over the course of spring, right? Like, they're just back to back. Every other league is doing a spring split. So you're not going to be able to get like really insane players that. Well, I don't even know if there's actually any insane players in NA. The only person I was thinking of was like Unforgiven maybe coming back or something that could be an angle, because he did lane with Kaiser previously. So if you're going to keep that part of it, maybe like that could be an angle. But I think the issue for them is that they don't really have like a lot of time to make a roster move if they want to, unless they get like unless they somehow get upset or something. If there's a slam dunk move where you could just grab somebody who's just sitting on the sidelines right now and you're willing to buy them out, maybe then you could be fine. But I think that luckily for them in spring split, like their spring split, it's so fucking weird to do this because it's like winter split, spring split, but when you say spring split, everyone's thinking about the split we're in for like other places. But anyways, for LEC spring split, if they do keep the same lineup, which I think they probably will, even if they do fail in winter, the meta will most likely hit them right in the face. And they won't have to be playing like these Nautilus, Leona, whatever type champions into like these range supports that are actually stronger than them. They'll be playing more even lanes. So I think that could be a benefit just based on their individual playstyles. But I mean, also it's just they need to use this week to just find an actual band-aid because they tried to band-aid their bot lane with the draft today. Like it was clear they had a plan, right? Their plan was, look, we take Sivir Lulu, they take the Zeri, we play like a 50-50 bot lane, and then like bot lane becomes kind of like removed from the game. We play towards top side will carry. That's our strength right now. But that band-aid, like somehow they were losing their turret all 5 plates by like 9 minutes. So is there any solution that they can come up with to
I think we saw the solution in game 2, which is that like they feel like they need to put Bo on one of these like big time carry junglers.
Yeah, but that's the panic. That's the panic.
Yeah.
That wasn't plan A. That was plan B.
The panic Nidalee came into effect because there's only been a couple kinds of Nidalees that I've seen. We've seen it in LPL. We've seen it in LCK. There's the panic Nidalee, and then there's the we are so much better than you. We are going to put you in the dumpster Nidalee. And those are the two kind of Nidalees that exist.
and even the put you in the dumpster Nidalee like doesn't even work most of the time. So like the Nidalee is probably something you throw out. I like Bo on something more where he can like make plays rather than like, so he has some form of CC. So like the Kindred, at least he could do something with that. I like those types of picks. I mean, you could probably adapt your jungler around what's going on bot, but they tried to like play a more standard draft. And I mean, obviously they didn't think that this bot lane, like this is a new day, right? They saw how bad their bot lane was today, how hard they got exposed. And now they're going to have a way different mindset as to how to fix this problem. Before it was like, oh, we can kind of ignore this problem. Yeah, just put them on like Sivir Lulu, they'll be fine. And then they saw this game, they're like, never mind. The fucking world is burning. Like, what can we actually play bot? Game 2, I kind of throw that one out in my mind because it's just such clear like draft panic. Like Nidalee Nautilus there. It was like just a like crazy reaction to what happened in game 1. That's all that you were dealing with. Now, going forward, you have to find like some actual solutions. If they can find some solution that allows their bot lane to just play the game, like what is our bot lane good at? Are they good at any champions in all of League of Legends? Is there any lane that they can play? If there's some lane that exists bot lane that is okay in the meta right now that they play, maybe Xayah Rakan, like Kaiser's a huge Rakan player, maybe like because Neon likes to play Xayah, that's something there. If there's any lane they can play, how do you get playable bot lanes into it? How do you leave up playable bot lanes into it? Is there anything that we can do there? That's what I think you're looking at. And if they're not able to do that, I think it's probably a 4th place finish. You probably just beat I think you still probably beat Heretics or SK again whenever you meet them. Whoever comes out. And then I think you probably just lose to either BDS or MAD in the best of 5 in lower bracket.
Currently, the kind of weird, this player's been on the roster for a while. They have a substitute AD carry. Their substitute AD carry listed was the coach before. It was Hjarnan. That's the
that's not a substitute AD carry.
I thought this was some sort of reveal.
No,
the lamest reveal of all time. I was like, you piqued my interest, and then you just fucking trolled me.
Because you listed a ton, and people were spouting off like Upset, Xmatty, Teddy.
Damn, man.
I mean, it's
Danny,
so stupid that teams have to do this. By the way, like I actually hate the teams like. To bring somebody else into the studio and have them cleared by Riot, you just have to list them as your sub. So you bring like your coach and your sub. But if you like most of these people are it's just your 2 coaches, right? Same thing happened with EG last year. When there was the whole like Danny situation, they're using Turtle as their sub, where it's like he's not a fucking sub, he's just your other coach. And that's why there was like the fucked up situation where like, hey, you shouldn't actually be able to play with Kaori here. You should have to use your sub.
That was outrageous. I mean, the rules were stupid, like, let's be clear, but that was pretty outrageous that they just waived the rules when EG was very specifically abusing the rules to get more coaches in the room.
But
right?
everyone does it. I mean, that's my problem is like, well, not everyone.
Then it's a stupid rule, or everyone should have to follow the rules. Just pick one. Just change the rules.
Rule. No,
it was a stupid rule.
Yeah, exactly. It's a stupid rule. Riot should change it. They should allow for like multiple coaches because these teams have multiple coaches anyway, and they have coaches in the room when they're practicing. So when they go and compete, they're going to want to bring their coaches. Just pay for the fucking extra coach. Like literally just pay for the extra fucking coach. So teams don't have to like sneak them in. It's like, oh, you're a sub. Like shit, you're a sub, but you're wearing a suit and you're with us. But like, you know, like you're still
Here's your jersey.
Yeah, like,
that's where you rip off the suit and the jerseys underneath, right?
Yeah.
I do think that the rest of this group kind of went as expected. I didn't read too much into Mad Lions beating G2 in the last day of the week because that was the G2 comp with like the Radiant Virtue Swain and Broken Blade on Karma in the top lane and like
who cares?
Talia, which was like, I don't know what the fuck that comp was or what that like. I don't know how they expected to do damage with that comp and that itemization. I think we've seen. I'm not super high on Swain in general right now, but I think it can be effective with like a Sivir, and I guess the Karma was sort of filling that speed boost role to get him into the team fight. But when he has Radiant Virtue, he doesn't do anything. So
yeah.
Anyway, I didn't read too much into that, is what I'm saying. And today, I was actually pretty disappointed in Mad Lions because it felt like they couldn't just hold the W, right? We saw that amazing play from Niski in the mid lane where he stole the Soraka ult to like save Chasey, and then the roam into mid by the Leona and getting the kill underneath the turret. And then he immediately just went and into the Draven and cashed in all the stacks. I was like, dude, I mean, you were the win condition here. What the fuck are you actually doing right now? And it just feels like Mad Lions can't just play through an entire game normally. And Niski also had several other moments of going way too deep on the Draven in that game and giving up quite a bit. So I was disappointed because I felt like Mad Lions had an amazing play that set them up to at least be successful in that game and then immediately ruined it for themselves.
Yeah, that play was so good because the casters were setting it up for a caster curse. They were hyping up Niski to be the carry. And I then started thinking, wow, maybe we should do a segment about Niski not just being a team play, not just playing mid for everyone else and allowing, other parts of the team carry. And then right in there, he goes and gives all the money over to not just anyone, but to Hansama on Draven.
Yeah,
and that was.
I mean, it literally ruined the entire game. I said it when I was watching it live. I'm like, yeah, he literally ruined the entire game.
He saved the game for like a minute. And then just ruined it.
It was less than a minute, bro. It was actually like 15 seconds. It was 15. It was like, oh my god, he got the Soraka. Wait, they live. This is huge. And then he literally just ran it down 15 seconds later.
I can't wait to see him on one of your live views here, Dom, and you can ask him about it.
I gotta invite him to a server, bro. He's too busy. Like, can he just fucking like? That's the thing that I appreciate about people like Wonder. He just fucking lost immediately so that he could join the live views like immediately, like right after the season. Like Niski's so fake.
He's just chilling.
Yeah, Niski's like gonna make BO5s. Nice, bro. You made BO5s. And congratulations. You made Winter BO5s. Like, who gives a fuck?
This goes to a broader point where I've actually been pretty disappointed in the best of threes that were played this weekend in Europe. They haven't been as clean as I would like for the most part, outside of Koi. But Koi had it easy, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think they looked better than they looked before, but I don't know. The teams that they played against them were playing so bad. It's really hard to know if it's Koi being good or G2 being bad. I mean, Vitality being bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, any
I think there's an interesting question, which is like, is BDS actually the second best team in Europe? To me, that I'm not sure. I don't think that's true, but I can't totally discount it at the current point in time.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Well, okay. So then who do you have going through here? Do you have BDS sliding on in here over Mad Lions, or do you have Mad Lions still knocking it out here in Group B?
I think BDS goes through. Based on what we've seen from Mad Lions in the past couple days, I think they've been really disappointing. And I feel like if you take scaling comps and play conservatively against Mad Lions, they will just throw at some point in time.
But that's the thing that I don't think BDS is good at. That's my issue. Is like I don't think BDS is like a very good scaling team. They have like catastrophes generally every single game. They have at least one catastrophe. That's just what I'm watching them for. It's like, what is the complete meltdown? And the thing is, this is the difference. Other teams will have like a mistake, but a mistake is not a catastrophe. A mistake is like, ooh, we were winning and we took that fight and that's like a 2-for-1. Ooh, okay, we gave a shutdown, but it's fine. BDS has the full on like sky is falling catastrophe. We're like, okay, we're winning the game. We're sieging with Bear. All 5 of us are dead. Somehow everyone is fucking dead based off this play that happened. So I just think when you play against other teams like in a BO5 or sorry, BO3, whatever, best of series in general, it's hard to beat a team that's close to your skill level when you're having one catastrophe a game because it means that the games that you're winning, you might lose. Whereas, I don't know. I think Mad Lions, even though they did like have some mistakes of their own until G2, it doesn't seem like it's as consistent of a problem for Mad Lions.
All right. Well, so then who do you got, Dom?
I mean, I think it's really draft dependent. The other issue that I have with BDS is the fact that Adam could just get banned out. And it seemed like the reason why I think the games were closer into G2 is it seemed like G2 just took the approach of like, give Adam his champions. We're just going to play Jax. Like we play Jax. He might play like Garen, like Darius, whatever. We don't, or Olaf. Just give him that matchup. Like we don't think that'll be that much of an issue for the game. Where I think that if you really are super cynical with your approach to the Adam conundrum or whatever, you just ban him out. You just ban out Olaf, Darius, and you make him like play these matchups. We saw what the Jax Renekton matchup looks like, right? I think that if you give draft resource to your top laner, you're banning out like 2 up front or banning out 1 champion up front, and then you go into like that 4-5 situation. And in the 4-5, like you ban out another like 2 champions that are good for the game, and you draft things that it seems like Mad Lions are willing to draft, right? Like Jace, Gnar, these types of champions shit on like Adam's entire champion pool. So I think that if Mad Lions are really cynical in draft and they prep super hard for this, best of 3, I think they would.
I think the downside is you might, if you draft that way, you might end up giving Shio Wukong.
Yeah, and I think that you can live with that, to be honest. Like, I think that Elgoya is a good enough jungler that if you give him a good matchup, like if he, you know, because they're going to have to ban, they have their own problems, right? Like BDS has their own problems, their own things that they must ban. Mad's going to have pick if they go blue side, like, so you know that they have to ban like Ashe. They're probably going to end up banning the Lucian as well because Lucian Nami is something that Mad Lions plays a lot, and it doesn't look like BDS is super comfortable on it. Even though they've played it, they don't prioritize it as highly as a team like Mad does. You end up with not many bans to actually like counteract the Maokai coming in, and if you get Maokai as Elyoya, I think you just take the Maokai into Wukong the entire series, and you trust the fact that Elyoya is a good enough player to win the super favorable matchup, and that BDS is just going to be so limited by the fact that Adam won't be relevant in the games that they lose.
I mean, it sounds ambitious to me, but I'm interested to see if they follow through with your plan.
All right, well, they'll have one more shot to do it.
I think it's the go-to plan. That's my Nostradamus take, by the way. This is my Nostradamus take. We didn't do a Nostradamus segment. Yeah, we didn't do a Nostradamus segment, so because I didn't have anything that like I really wanted to talk about, but this is actually something that I think could be a very viable way to play into BDS, and we haven't seen people take this approach as much as you would expect with a player like Adam.
So the Nostradamus hypothesis is that you're going to ban
that
out
Mad
Adam's
Lions is super cynical, ban out Adam. Adam does not have the series that he's been having. Like he doesn't play at the same level. Mad Lions is able to win because of the non-winning top side from BDS. That's the Nostradamus.
All right, there you have it. We got a extra little segment within our Galaxy Brain Club segment there.
Who do you take on the other? I still take Vitality, even though we were shitting on them. I don't think Heretics can beat them. We already saw that matchup. I don't think they have the depth in order to do it, and I don't think SK beats them either. So I still think it's Koi Vitality, but Vitality probably won't have a great time in the next round.
Sorry, I assumed that you were going to pick Vitality. My bad. What do you got?
I probably think Vitality as well. I mean, it's so the thing that's scary is I think SK beats Heretics, and I think SK's bot lane could actually fuck up Vitality's bot lane with how things have been going. Like SK's been a really good bot lane. I mean, they were solo killing Koi's bot lane at points, right? So I don't know. I think if Vitality really has like the meltdown, if they keep on like the same trajectory of bot lane performance, just becoming worse and worse and worse, like I think Exakick and DOS might be able to just completely smurf on them. But I guess I would say like Vitality is slight favorites to me. But if you give me odds, I'm betting fucking SK. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I'm sure they will have good odds just on name value and fan support and the betting line moving alone. So
hey, I might just be betting on them then. We'll have to see. See what the lines are.
All right, well, LEC in full swing here in their winter group stage. Already 2 qualified to the playoffs, 2 more next week. Okay, next up, our one of our bigger segments of the day. We've got our high key, low key, no key for Global League of Legends. Global League. These are the teams with 2 losses or fewer, and we want to get the feel here from the guys who are the high key teams, the low key kind of excited teams, or the no key. These guys are not exciting at all. All right, let's get to it. All right, here are our teams that have 2 losses or fewer in the major regions. So if you're watching from
and not including LEC apparently.
LATAM, sorry.
There were no teams in LEC.
Yeah. LEC, there were no teams. Yeah. 6 and 3.
True. 2 losses or fewer. They didn't just play best of 3s.
Yep.
All right.
And Vitality and Mad Lions, who were 7-2 in the regular split, lost their best of 3s. So it is slightly unfair because LEC has played more games, but we'll move on.
Yeah. We just talked enough about LEC, so we're just excluding them from the segment. Perfect.
We've got 5 teams from the LPL: IG, JDG, LNG, Top Esports, EDG, 6 teams, and RA, Rare Atom. From the LCK, we have Gen G and T1, and from the LCS, 4 squads, the 1 undefeated FlyQuest, as well as 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and Evil Geniuses. Let's start on the bottom side because we already kind of did fraud alert, so we have generally an idea on who are the teams with the 2 losses that you're least excited about. So let's start with you on this one, Dom. What team out of this list are you least excited about?
I mean, probably. Look, I don't need this. If I were to go 1, I would say RA, but we can just throw all 3 NA teams here. Like, we can throw all NA teams. Like, I mean, besides for Fly, 100 Thieves, C9, EG, and RA. That's my that's my just no key excited. Like, I haven't seen anything out of those teams that makes me think that like they're going to do anything special. I mean, RA still might not even be a playoff team, even though they've won 4 series. This team is bad. Trust me. Southwind is a parasite, man. Like, he will just slowly destroy the team. RA is bad. 100 Thieves, C9, and EG, I just don't actually think that they're just not good. You know, like their ceiling is not high enough where I'm just going to be excited about them. I'll be excited when they play each other domestically, but if we're putting them in the same conversation as like JDG, Top, Gen G, T1, you know, EDG, it's not happening.
All right. Well, there you have 4 wiped out. Monty, what are you going with here with your low?
I agree with Tom.
It's 3-1. What the fuck?
Oh, I didn't add Weibo in there. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm high key excited for them though.
Yes, obviously. Obviously, especially after this last week. Missed that one. That's my bad in the list. I agree with Tom. I'm tempted to throw EDG in there, but I think I'm going to throw EDG into the low key one. I don't see this iteration of EDG as having the level of star power that a lot of these other top LPL teams have, which I think is going to limit their ceiling. A lot of people were hype off of Ale on LNG last year. He was good, but EDG, they've been picking up the pieces since losing Scout and Viper. And I think even though I will say, I think Fofo's done better than expected. We haven't seen the same level of performance. So I guess I put them in low key. I think they're overperforming with the losses they suffered to their roster. Otherwise, I'm low key about Fly. The problem with FlyQuest is that I can't tell if they're playing with their food or not, or if they're actually if Vikla is just sometimes really bad. I think his Aurelia performance was really questionable, and they have these like throw moments that they have to recover from. And so far, they have recovered from all of those moments, but I can't tell if they have those moments on a big stage, they're not going to be able to recover from them, in spite of the fact that they do have some international quality players. So my expectations around FlyQuest, I would say, have been tempered a little bit. I think IG falls into that same camp for all of the reasons that we said earlier, as well as LNG. I just don't think they have the ceiling, and their records are not reflecting their actual final playoff performance.
You know, for FlyQuest, I was speaking with the coaches, and they're very proud of the fact that it feels like this is a product of the process. They are saying, hey, our games have been very sloppy and messy, but the process is the output that we're getting now. And
the process is getting better players. Like, that is the process. The process is like, we have better players than you. Watch them play better. Like, that's it. That's the process, bro. Like, what?
Well, I think that's why they're winning.
Yeah. What is the process? Like,
I think that's why they're winning. They're taking practice more serious than other teams. But
the scouting process.
But it does seem like they are making those mistakes. They're just not getting punished because they're better players comparatively. So that to me feels like, hey, there's more of a ceiling for them to glow up to and grow up to. Dom, you gave us your no-key squads. Give us your low-key squads. Who are or a couple that you're kind of excited about to continue on with their success that they've had so far?
So for me, for FlyQuest, I'll put them in high key because I'm high key excited for them for different reasons. Like, for me, the standard of NA to get me excited is like, do I think this team could potentially like beat a tier 2 team from another region internationally? And I feel like FlyQuest like actually feels like, if they hit that top level, they have the player quality to be able to compete, at least. So I'm putting FlyQuest in high key. That's just a little spoiler there. For the other teams that I would have in my low key area, I'll have IG, LNG, EDG, and then I'll put Gen G in there. I'm low-key excited for Gen G. I just don't think they have like the ceiling that Hanwha Life, Dom1, and T1 have.
Monty, let's go to you then. You're high key. Who are you high key excited about to close?
I'm high key excited about Gen G. I disagree with Dom. I think this team has shown pretty significant growth over the course of this split already. And yes, they lost to KT. That is an undeniable fact. But I also think that watching those games this past week, I think there's a couple factors. So first off, KT is an extremely up and down team that on good days can take out top teams. I also think that Gen G likely should have won this series, even in the final game. And Gen G also did some very, I would say, questionable things in the second game of the series. So I think they played much worse than I would have expected, and I'm not sure they took KT super seriously, including doing things like leaving the Kassadin up in the draft, which I think was pretty straight disrespectful in many ways towards KT. And I think they thought they could just kind of walk over the end of the series. Also, aiming has improved a lot. I think he started pretty rocky at the start of the season and has gotten much better and up to the level that we would have expected from him last year, the longer the series has gone on. But I think Gen G still is one of the most exciting teams in the LCK, and they've retained a lot of their identity that they had from last year in spite of subbing out their bot lane. And I think this bot lane, while it's never going to be as good as Ruler, and I don't think we expect this team to be the champion of the LCK in back-to-back splits, I think that come summer, they should be a pretty formidable competitor on the international stage, even if they're not necessarily a favorite. They still do an excellent job of taking the majority of the jungle creeps in the game, the majority of the lane farm in a game. They make very intelligent kind of wave state decisions and very good about setting up for objectives. Like, their macro fundamentals are just very solid. And to me, that's why they're exciting and why they have a pretty high floor.
Okay, boom. There you have it. Was
also high key, obviously T1, obviously JDG, obviously Weibo, especially after, Weibo's had a tough early schedule and they've come away with both wins against Top and JDG.
Those are big wins. Those are huge wins. Yeah.
And I think JDG, I still think JDG is a better team than Weibo. And I think that their bot lane, like Ruler had his first bad day, I think, against Weibo, and he was punished for it. And I do think that Light is like really underrated, but Ruler also kind of just inted, especially in the third game on Zeri. He just completely ran it down. And so I'm not sure that particular over aggression is going to occur again. And credit to Weibo for catching the throw. And I think Shy, in spite of having like a kind of weird laning phase, was really good in some of these team fights and knew his job on the Scion particularly well. And the drafts were really good from Weibo. But I think you play that back in the playoffs, and I don't think JDG loses that series. So I still think JDG is better, but very excited about Weibo. They've been a super pleasant surprise. Crisp is looking incredibly good.
Yeah, Crisp looks really good. But I mean, he's
really fucking good.
He's been good. He was good on that FPX team that was like consistently like top 2 for 2021. Sure. And then last year, like I don't blame him at all for being like not great. Like he had not a good AD in Doggo. Like when Uzi played, I mean Uzi looked completely washed. Just have to say it. That like Fofo was not playing well. Like his team wasn't really putting him in a position. At the end of the day, he's a fucking support player. So Crisp has been like he's an international level player. And yeah,
he looks great.
Yeah, he's been good, and also Light is super underrated, just like Monte.
I agree. Says. Light is very underrated. That guy's legit.
he's just got an unattractive play style. That's it. Like when you're in LPL, the people that are going to get the praise are the ones that have the aggression, that are going to go in and get like the fucking clean ass pentakill. Where Light is just like he's in that like reckless Ruler tier of players, where or like I guess I would call it like section of players where they're just not going to make mistakes. Damage. Yeah, they're not going to make mistakes most of the time, which is why I think it was so crazy to see Ruler make so many mistakes in this in this series. Like Ruler is not the guy who just ints 3 times in a row and loses you the game. Like that's just not who he is. Like if he dies once in a game, like dude, when he would die like 1 or 2 times in a game in Summer Split, Genji would just lose. It's like, what the fuck, bro? Ruler died? Like, oh fuck, well, everything is done.
The LPL has infected his mind, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
he's already become corrupted.
Yeah. Look, we saw it a little bit in that other series he was playing, the one versus I believe it was AL, where he was like flanking on Caitlyn a couple times. It's like, Ruler, when did you start flanking on the flank Caitlyn? Like he's just flash gale forcing to finish somebody off behind the turret, like drops the trap, ease on. It's like, what the fuck, man? Like, okay, all right. So that was interesting.
It was versus RNG. It was the RNG series.
Oh, the RNG series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking.
I watched that one.
Yeah, that was something else. But I mean, I don't.
It was a bad week for Ruler. It was a bad week for Ruler.
To me, like, I mean, if you've watched enough Ruler, like this, unless we start seeing this being a consistent issue, I'm not going to read too much into it. He's been so good for so long and showed time and time again that he has the mindset to not make those mistakes. Like he understands all the danger that could be coming at him and he plays around it perfectly. So I'm not reading too much into that. JDG, I'm still super excited for. Top esports. T1 I just think is like probably the best team in the world. It looks like they grief half their games. It looks like they're just like trolling on purpose when they lose.
I mean,
I don't believe they're actually losing.
People will point to the Hanwha games, but I mean, take it for what it's worth. Like obviously the players and the coaches are going to make a justification after they lost that match. But Faker and Bengi straight up said, we were experimenting and we didn't prep very hard for this match, which it didn't appear that they did. And those drafts were like horrendous
every time they lose, right?
Sure. So. But I also believe them in this specific case because it's not like we were watching a team that was up to the same level of quality that they've displayed.
Enough games.
Yeah. I mean, they do make excuses, but I mean, they bounced back this week and they absolutely took care of business in their 2 best of 3s against weak opponents. I think this team is probably the number 1 team in the world at the moment, especially with JDG's loss this past week. I think they're on top of the power rankings.
But the other part of it is they should be the best team in the world because everyone else made roster changes and they're just playing with the same fucking 5 people.
Correct.
So like,
correct. And that team turns out made back-to-back international finals and also back-to-back domestic finals. So if they are not good with the running back that same roster that made every final last year, it would be a little bit disconcerting. So I think right now, but the ceiling for JDG that we've seen is absolutely fucking nutty. Like this team could sweep everything this year, just in terms of player quality. So I'm really excited to see more of them.
All right. Well, there you have it. Our high key, low key, and no key squads from around the world sitting with 2 losses or fewer. We'll keep an eye on that as we continue on. Okay. Finally, to close it on out, it's a reminder of the game that you missed. If you only have time to watch one, go back and watch this one. It is certified fresh from the Power Spike boys. It is our certified banger of the week, coming from the LPL. This one, LNG and OMG. Dom, go. Actually, go ahead. Run the thing. Run the trailer.
Yeah. So.
Well, everybody thought it was going to be JDG versus Weibo, but this was the surprise banger.
This is the surprise banger, and this is what we said on the show. I told Monty last week, and I need to convert him into this: that the real bangers that you get in LPL are not the top of the table.
You said it was going to be good. And I'm really glad I did.
I'm telling you, man, that's how it works in LPL. Normally, in other regions, the bangers are like the top of the table, or like in LCS, sometimes like. The bangers at the bottom of the table become so hilarious that they're actually like the super bangers, but most of the time they're just sad, right? In LPL, the biggest bangers are just the middle of the table because the teams are just like, they're good enough mechanically that there's a lot of good fights, but they're bad enough macro-wise that they do a lot of dumb shit. So you just get like a bunch of fucking crazy ass fights over and over again, and just like the winner is decided based off, who plays better in this like final team fight, which will be like the 5th or 6th one that you get of the game. So this game, I think it lived up to the hype. OMG's draft that was the most OMG draft you'll ever see in the game 3 of this series. The deciding game of this series, what does OMG come up with? Because some people pick Kassadin. Kassadin is not a crazy pick to have around the world. But who the fuck is R1 in Kassadin? Like, enemy team can pick any champion in the game. They can pick Tristana, one of the counters. They can pick Lucian mid, or like any of the fucking crazy ass counters. They can pick Zed. There's so many counters to this champion.
Very popular.
Yeah, Yone. They just R1 the Kassadin. They R1 Kassadin, and normally like
I was wondering why in LPL, so many teams were like banning Kassadin in first rotation. I'm like, surely nobody's gonna like first rotation Kassadin. I was
wrong. First rotation Kassadin, like R1 Kassadin. Like what the fuck? They left Kassadin up. It's broken. Like pick it. And what's so crazy is that game shows why people are willing to first rotation the Kassadin. Like he was able to get through the hardest part of the game, the first 10 minutes, into Tristana, which is your absolute hardest counter, by the way. It's unplayable for the Kassadin. He got through that point in the game, and it was actually the mid game where OMG made the mistakes, and they were able to throw that game. But let's just go through the draft. The R1 is the Kassadin. R2 is Wukong, right? Like that's normal. Everyone sees Wukong. R3 Samira. Kassadin Samira, like R1 through 3.
Yeah, but that's an able pocket pick. So
yes.
And by the way, they're not on 13.1B yet, guys. So if you're thinking like, oh yeah, Samira's been up there in terms of solo queue win rate, the answer is no. They're still on 13.1.
Yes. Yeah, they're still on 13.1. So aka Cassiopeia. Wait, what are people saying? Kassadin is what we're talking about. Anyway, Kassadin and Samira. And the thing is, like, normally if you go Samira, you're going to pick it with your support. So if you do like go for a Samira pick, normally you'll pick like a support like Nautilus or something, like 1, 2, and then 3 you'll slot in the Samira. But they pick Kassadin and give over full counter pick, and then they pick Samira without even picking their support, so they allow the enemy team to ban out their supports. I don't even think this, like, I'm not saying this is good. This is just some psychopath OMG drafting. Like, you will never see this shit in another region because it just looks too bad. Like, no coach is gonna actually go into a fucking meeting with the owner and defend that shit. It's like, yeah, so here I just thought the Kassadin was really good to pair with the Samira, so we have 2 losing lanes, and we have like no prio, like, and our jungler is weak level 1, and we give them full counter picks. It was just some psychopath drafting, and somehow OMG almost won the game. They were actually winning team fights. They should have won the game at a point, and then things got out of hand. Enemy team got soul, and it was tough.
I think this game in particular is just so fucking funny. Purely from an entertainment perspective, I was just laughing my ass off the entire way through it. And on the other side, LNG, Tarzan did like 50,000 damage on Maokai this game. And there's one fight, the soul fight, I think he does something like 8,000 damage.
He like 1v4'd.
It's hilarious to watch this, guys, because the only thing he gives a fuck about, spoiler, this will be in the top 5 plays of the week, is putting saplings in brushes. And he's literally just wandering around the fight, putting saplings in brushes, and then just watching them explode on 3 or 4 people at the same time, and not really peeling for LP on the Varus, not really giving a fuck. And he's running the Night Harvester Demonic Embrace Zonia's Maokai with first strike. It is so funny to watch this because he literally nobody on OMG is concerned about him at all. So he just continuously throws saplings and brushes and just works them down for this entirety of this like 30-second long fight, and then comes in with this like crazy engage with the 4-man arcane smash sapling explosion that just completely melts the LMG, gets them the soul, basically wins the game for them. But it's very entertaining. It is very entertaining.
Yep.
Boom.
I mean, that's like the least entertaining OMG game, by the way. Like this team, I mean, to be honest, the least entertaining games were when they lost to fucking RA today. But most of the time, OMG, like the reason they're one of my favorite teams in the world is they just produce fucking bangers. Like the way they play is they're so fucking Chinese. Like the way they play is so Chinese. It's LPL at its fucking core, and I love it. So
OMG I'm glad you recommended this series because I watched it and I thought this was just great. I thought it was just great.
LNG and OMG. Go back and watch it if you want to see more of that LPL style bangers throughout, I guess, the whole season, but definitely this week's certified banger. All right, y'all. Boom. Did it. Done and dusted. Another episode of Power Spike in the books. Monty, where will people find you this week?
We'll get some power rankings out this week. We'll get some more top 5, so watch for that on Last Free Nation. I'll be streaming some VOD reviews and stuff, probably starting Tuesday, so tomorrow after SI, then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday mornings before LCS, because Super Week for LCS this week. So we'll have extra games. That's it.
All right, Dom, how about you?
Super Week for LCS, so I'm going nonstop. Like we're doing the no days off. We're in the fucking grind of the season.
When are you sleeping? When are you sleeping this week with the extra match?
I'm like sleeping like right now. As soon as you hit the off button on this shit, I fall asleep. That's how it works. Like,
why haven't you added a bed to your streaming room yet, so you can actually just not even leave ever?
I've turned my upstairs like of my house into just essentially an apartment. It is literally just an apartment. I have a refrigerator up here. I have a sleeping room up here where I just completely blacked out the blinds. I have a gym there. I have my stream room here. Literally this is just like it is just a fucking grind area. You know, like it is just the setup that we have here. So, yeah, I mean, tomorrow, Top Esports versus IG, 3 a.m. So it's like super early, 3 a.m. my time. So 10 if you're in Europe. So Central European time, at least. That should be good. Then there's TT versus Weibo. I'll be doing all 3 days of LEC, all 3 days of LCS, LPL every single day besides for, I believe, Saturday, because the one game that I can't watch, the 1 a.m. game, is the only one that's good that day. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be on the grind. So yeah, you can catch me on my stream. We're having a good time. We have a lot of banger guests. We recently did the co-stream with like Wonder, Upset, and Yamato, and it's so funny watching it, listening to these guys, just talk about the game, knowing that this was one of the teams that was doing pretty well at a point at Worlds last year.
All right, make sure to catch him there during all of those matches. I have Bjergsen interview, Fudge interview,
great
World Championship coach Song with head of coaching FlyQuest Sharks in a dual interview together. All of that over on my YouTube channel coming up over on Tuesday. And then make sure, if you haven't already, please take the time to subscribe to our channel here at Last Free Nation. Be a part of what we're building, the content for your esports needs, not just in League, but across the gamut. The amount of content that Monty and the gang are putting out is a ton. Andrew as well, our producer. We're putting out so much stuff for you.
Adadian, our editor. I mean, it is crazy. Like, do sign up for all our channels. We give clips on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, everything like that. So we will keep you entertained. I promise you that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of Power Spike. We will catch you guys next week to talk playoffs for LEC. It'll be locked in this super week for the LCS and the prove it, or I guess a put up or shut up for those keeper kick teams in
also
the
banger LPL matches this next week.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week for another episode of Power Spike. See ya.